Hey everyone, welcome back to the Winner's Circle. I'm Derrick.
And I'm Cody.
And we are here covering the Triple Eviction for Big Brother 10. As we always do, we're going to cover the whole week, although there's a lot to cover just in the Triple Eviction.
Yeah.
So we're going to go a little faster tonight on the episodes preceding the Triple Eviction. But before we get into it, Cody has something to tell you that I don't think he's ever told you before.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have been listening to our podcast, and if you haven't, and this is your first time, we need you to subscribe to the channel. It's right, look up the Winner's Circle, subscribe, hit that subscribe button, and then right next to it, there's this little bell. Turn on those bell notifications and turn it on for all so that you know every time we drop a video, when we go live, because there's a lot of stuff coming up. We are getting ramped up for Big Brother US season 24, which is going to be a huge season. We're going to have a live feed correspondent. We're going to be doing a lot more coverage. So if you don't want to miss anything on this channel, turn on all for those notifications. And if you are listening to audio, please give us a 5-star review and leave a comment if you feel we deserve it. We really appreciate all the support. We are growing with you, and we love having you all and love that you all are commenting. And I hope you're enjoying the little back and forth we had with Big Brother US versus Big Brother Canada, because that was a really fun episode. And if you haven't seen it, get to the end or go back to our videos and click into that one.
I was literally just about to say that, and you beat me to it. So that's why we're on the same page. Yeah,
Always.
That episode was great. Came out this morning, right?
Came out,
we're recording
1 o'clock,
this. It came out so for you guys, it'll probably be yesterday, but definitely check it out. It's a fun one. We do cover a little BB Can 10 in there, but it's mostly about this, theoretical US versus Canada competition. It was pretty cool. Yeah. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We start the week. Most of you already know Marty wins HOH.
Yep.
And right there, you know it's going to be an interesting week because Marty has been very emotional all season long. This was no different. He wins. He's, it's kind of like a somber thing where Betty loses her mind. She's really upset that she lost. She's very emotional. Marty doesn't even know what to do. He's kind of standing off to the side and he's like, all right, I'm not going to say much. But then he gets to his room and he starts thinking about it. He's like, that's 3 in a row. That's the hat trick. He gets all jacked up.
He gave the whole, it bothered him that people were all somber because he was like, it's like a funeral out there that I won HOH. And you could see once something bothers Marty, there's no way that he can turn it. And I didn't realize this, but he's a hockey coach. So he must have been a hockey player. And what we know about hockey players, it kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. Hot-headed, tough, kind of like brute, and have no problem saying or blowing up.
Right. Yeah. No.
They throw the gloves down always.
He's definitely 1 minute he's like, listen, I'm just here, love you guys. The next minute he's like, what you gotta say? Yeah. He's just he has a short fuse for sure. There's a couple conversations back and forth, but to get to the actual meat of the episode, he ends up nominating Betty and Josh, and I don't necessarily hate those noms for him. He had promised Gino and Jacey-Lynne they were going to be safe for the week. He has what he believes, a final 3 with, or even if you want to call it like a final 5, right? Yeah. With Helena, with Kevin. I think those are his 2 strongest allies if we want to make it a 3. So he's not going to put them up. So it makes sense. I'm going to put up Betty. I'm going to put up Josh. Betty is his target. He lets Josh know that.
Yep.
Obviously, Josh goes back and tells Betty.
And we see what happens after that.
Yeah, Betty doesn't like that too much. So going into it, if noms stay the same, you're going to have more than likely, I think, Josh going home, even though Marty wants Betty. But in Marty's mind, as long as the noms stay the same, one of them don't win veto, Betty's going to go home.
But do you think Betty would go home because Kevin and Helena are in the Ghost Alliance with him?
Yeah, no, I don't. I
just don't know where Summer would vote. She would be the rogue one.
She would be the rogue vote, but I think you would end up having, more than likely, Helena, Kevin vote to keep Josh, and then you would have Summer vote to evict Josh.
Right.
So it's 2-1, and then you have Gino and Jacey-Lynne.
Yeah.
I don't know with them. They're kind of hard to read. They go back and forth, but I feel like Josh and Gino have had some good conversations, and Betty has not had great conversations with Jacey-Lynne or Gino. So I almost think they probably would vote to keep Josh. Maybe.
Yeah, totally.
But we will never know, and we're going to get to why we'll never know very quickly.
Yeah.
So Veto Comp comes up. We didn't have to do this veto competition on our season, and I am so glad we didn't because I was dreading it. Just to I have ADD, and I don't know if I could sit in a box for 100 minutes. What did you think of the veto? You're a pretty good competitor. Is this something you think you would excel at?
I think I'm very similar to you. I think I would be easily distracted. I would lose track of what count I was on. Wait, how many do I have? And Kevin was doing a good job of it. I liked Kevin's strategy. He was like counting stuff out and then holding it on his finger. So the first thing I thought of as I was watching it was there was like these like, it was like kind of like branches or like this like kind of grass. And I would have, every time I counted to a certain number, I would grab a piece and put it on my chest, grab a piece, put it on my chest. And I would have went that route because that's how I would have felt I would have been closest to. But my attention span is very similar to you, how you just described yours. I would have been smoked, lost. I would have started thinking about like, oh my, am I going to be on the block? Like Big Brother does a great job of making your mind run at 100 miles a minute. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I don't think I would do well in a competition like that.
No, I definitely wouldn't. But I did want to make a side note because I was watching the episode. It was late. I was dying when they kept cutting to Josh's reaction with the worms, the screaming. I'm not even going to try to replicate it. But it reminded me of you almost with like the screaming because it was like random. And all of a sudden he was doing the, he was like, yeah. He was doing it just like that.
And you would make fun of me for that on 16
dude,
all the time.
It was so genuine, bro. It was so genuine. He was like in so much fear. I was dying. I was absolutely dying. And then they had the families call in. You're going to get the tear jerking.
That's going to distract you drastically. And Summer is just, I mean, to be 100% honest, Summer was someone that I really liked. She had fun DRs. Summer started to become a bit much for me. And so like, even in that one, I was like, is she ever going to do anything? And the problem I had with, when you're throwing a ton of competitions, right, is when do you know how to turn it on in the crunch time? Because Summer, we're at the end of the game. So Summer had to come to the realization, I need to start winning some comps. And when you throw it a lot, I just don't know that you just, listen, it's not the same. And as two athletes who we know how to compete, it's not the same when you're competing in these Big Brother competitions. You can't just turn it on unless you are getting in a routine of always being on. And so I was always just like, Summer is just, she's just not there.
Well, you know what I said a few weeks ago, and I stand behind it. I don't think Summer was throwing as many comps as she wanted Canada to believe. And there's more evidence of that we're going to talk about tonight because I have notes of it where I think Summer might have been playing a character as opposed to being who she is on the show. And that was her words, not mine. And we'll get into that. Again, no shade. I'm calling it how I see it. I don't care who they are. We get to the comp, they had their whole veto. Betty ends up winning it. She only was off by like 40 seconds. It was ridiculous.
Super impressive.
Kudos to her. And we give Betty a lot of shit, but we said she's got to start winning some comps. Hey, credit where credit's due. You won the comp and that wasn't an easy comp to win. So hats off to you, Betty. If you're going to win this game, you got to have some comps under your belt. And, conversely, when we talk about Summer and, I'm a strong player, I've just been playing slow. Betty knows that it's crunch time. She had to win. She won. So throws a huge monkey wrench in Marty's plan. You could see his facial reaction. He's like, well, this really sucks. So before we get to the whole gummy bear thing, because you and I have some personal experience with using candies. I'm sure a lot of people
and I think we should dive into it because I feel like a lot of people gave Marty crap and then they gave Gino crap. And I have very important points to make about that whole scenario because we had that play out on our season.
We did it for a different reason. Right before we do, I just wanted your impression on the secret competition that they had Kevin do. We're late in the game. We don't have to go over it. He basically had to convince the house that he was going to self-evict. Do you see any ramifications from that? Do you see anything that could hurt his game? I initially, when I saw it on Twitter, I was like, oh, that's not good. But now I'm kind of I saw your facial reaction to it. Maybe I don't think so. I think people took it all right.
And the reason why I say no is at first I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, wow, he gets a secret power. He just exposed that to the house. But what was the reward that came from it? It was a group thing. It was almost like something to just, and where he can definitely spin this. It's like, oh, they threw something at me. That's fun. It was me that was chosen, voted by, Canada. The only thing that can maybe hurt is why did Kevin get voted at for that? Why it's like Summer got voted to be kept safe. Why did Kevin get that vote? And that's how my brain would start racking it. But they ended up with a reward. So it's like, is that going to hurt him? Not really.
The one big takeaway I took from the game where you can kind of get an insight into someone's brain, Josh really likes Kevin. Oh, he's really loyal to him, and that was some genuine. Some people are like, "No, don't go, Kevin."
But one more on.
But go, go. And where Josh was literally, he was broken. He was like, "I can't do this without you." So I thought that was a tell for Kevin, where it's like, "Oh, this guy really has my back," and he proves that even more down the road. But why don't you dive into it? Explain the gummy bear thing because I have some thoughts on it as well. I know people were probably thinking about us when this came up,
if
the
you're
candy
a
thing.
BBUS person and you watch that, you've already seen this if you watched season 16. And so Marty
we got a lot of shit for it.
Yeah. And I assume Marty probably did on Twitter. I wasn't really following
Arissa was giving him a little bit about, resorting to candy as well when he got evicted. So yeah, dive into it.
So Marty decides, okay, there's a 5-person alliance. Summer is safe for the week. Betty and Josh are on the block. Betty wins the HOX. The only replacement nom can be someone within his alliance. So Marty goes the route of, I don't want to show my cards, and I'm going to put a gummy bear in so it was Helena, JC, and Kevin. There were 2 yellow gummy bears and 1 red gummy bear. And he said, whoever grabs a red gummy bear goes on the block. He turns to Gino and says, do you want to put your gummy bear in? And Gino says, yes, I'm willing to do it. I trust the group. So the whole group does it. So there's 3 yellow gummy bears, 1 red gummy bear. Whoever pulls a red gummy bear goes on the block. So the thing about it that Marty did, which I understand, right? Because we were in a similar situation. It was, how do you choose? How do you show nothing while still having to have that burden of being the HOH and having to nominate somebody? And it's bringing the group together, seeing the loyalty, knowing, okay, we have the numbers. There's no reason to worry. Everybody kind of show how much you trust this group. The thing I don't like about it, and I know this from Marty, and I don't really know this because he never said it, is Marty, because of what I've seen, is if anybody wasn't for it, Marty would have taken that as like a direct threat that you don't trust the group, you don't trust us, so I can't trust you, I'm putting you on the block. So it almost put everybody like on edge in that group, because it's like, and that's why I feel like Gino put in on it. Because I feel like Gino was feeling that. He was like, well, if I back out now and I say no, then like I look like I don't trust the group, even though everything has pointed to Gino not having to trust this group. So I didn't love it on Marty's end, because Marty is always, this is the thing that I don't love about Marty. I'm kind of going on a rant right now because Marty has been driving me crazy recently. Marty is all about like, play to Canada, look at the cameras and do this, Canada, blah, blah, blah. I got that initially. It's a crock of shit to me at this point. Marty
Dude, I literally wrote, Marky talking to camera, stop it.
Yeah. It's a crock of shit. He literally wants everybody to worry about what Canada thinks. And then he literally has gone back on it multiple times. He said early on in the week, and it made me roll my eyes constantly because it was like, oh, I'm going to take care of Gino. I need to prove it to Gino. Every time you said that, you backstabbed this guy. And it's just so frustrating hearing Marty just kind of go over it and then want to play the nice guy and the victim. Like, I don't buy that shit. Like, I do think Marty is a nice guy outside of the house, but it's like, play the game and stop trying to play the nice guy and also playing the game. It drove me nuts.
He's trying to use Canada as a tool, like a fear tool, tool.
Like what did you think of that? Like, I
think he literally said, Canada, you saw this. Like, nobody cares. Canada knows its big brother. You can bounce checks, as the great Mike Boogie once said. So it's one of those things where Kevin's like, yeah, promise Kevin, Canada, whatever you want. I don't care. I'm here to play the game. Let me run this at you real quick though. I know I agree with your rationale as to why Gino put his name in the hat, but at this point, there's so limited amount of players left. All you got to do is just survive a week or two, and you're in the final 3.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he didn't see it. I mean, he seems like a smart guy. He's proven he's a smart guy. You have 3 people in the hat. Your only goal is to make sure that you and Jacey-Lynne are safe for that week. So by you not being in that hat or being in the can, it's a 33% chance that Jacey-Lynne is going to get picked. That's 33%, right? Mm-hmm. You have Helena, Kevin, and Jacey-Lynne. By you putting your name or your gummy bear in there, you just increase the odds of someone you don't want being on the block to 50%. And it's simple math. It's like poker. Like you play the odds.
That is a brilliant, great call. It took me a second to even register it. That's of course, because you're saying Gino and Jacey-Lynne are 2. So that's 25, 25. Now it's 50.
They're a tandem.
Yes.
Her going on the block would be as bad as him going on the block.
Yes.
So his fear is, I don't want Jacey-Lynne or I to be on the block this week. I want it to be Helena or Kevin. So what's better odds? One person you care about with 2 people you don't, or 2 people you care about and 2 people you don't. So you just increase the chance by 20%. And that's it's a coin flip now. And so I know he was kind of caught up in the moment and he wasn't prepared for it. So I get all that, because he was probably like, dude, he looked at me. I immediately said, throw my name in. But if he would have had just 10 minutes to think about it, I would have hoped he would have said, mathematically, this doesn't make sense. I don't want Jacey-Lynne to go home, but if I'm on the block, I'm definitely going home. And he knew that, because the minute his gummy bear gets pulled and he has the red gummy bear. You can see it in Jacey-Lynne's face. You can even see it in Gino's face. You can see it in everybody but Marty's face. Even Kevin and Helena, they all looked at the camera and did this, but all four of them knew what was about to happen. Like, Gino knew his game was over. I truly believe that. Like, he thought there was hope, but even his reaction immediately after, he knew his game was toast.
Yeah.
He's going up against Josh. Josh is well liked. You're going home, bud.
The thing is I think, so because we were in this situation, so I know what it was like on the other end, because you were the HOH. You were like, and you weren't delivering it like Marty, but you were on the other side of it. And I remember sitting there, and it was me, Caleb, Christine, and Zach. Us four, three of us had to go on the block. And I remember how much it bothered me, how Zach was like being all pissy about it.
Yep, he didn't want to do it.
And so that's why I know from the other end, maybe why Gino did it. And I think it bothers me more that Marty does all this talking, says all this stuff, wants everybody to talk to Canada, wants, my word is my word is my word to Canada. And everybody sees it's being said here on the cameras. And then you literally should have been like, it doesn't matter what Gino says, I'm not putting his gummy bear in. If you want to stick to your word and you want to constantly talk to the cameras for Canada to see the kind of genuine guy that you are, Gino's name stays out, period. And so it bothered me more on Marty's end than it did on Gino's end. And I think that's what Emma was talking about when we did our Big Brother Canada versus Big Brother US. And he was like, I just want people to go in there and play. And I do feel like there would have been a repercussion for Gino because of how Marty is so imbalanced in his decisions because of his emotions, that if Gino would have been like, no, man, you promised me I'm not doing it, Marty would have taken that as selfish and just been like, I'm doing it. He's not faithful to the 5. He's going to go home. I can't disagree with you. And so I don't love Marty. Actually, it's not like I don't. He drives me nuts now, and he is not going to have to anymore. Not to foreshadow.
we're close to that. So,
but it's like I just didn't that whole situation because I was on the other end of it where you were on the Marty side of it, but you and Frankie handled that perfectly. It was like, listen,
I just didn't want to show my cards at that point. I wanted Donnie on the block. Why would Team America? I had Team America.
But why would you show your cards as the HOH? Like, if I thought Marty was doing it for the strategic reasons of Derrick, which I know he is not.
Yeah. And Frankie was HOH too, I think.
Right.
It was a double HOH.
And Frankie's a strategic player. So you two had probably similar thought patterns in that. I'm not trying to show my hand, which is obviously
that's 100% what it was. There was a lot of people we were like, we don't know which way this is going to go. If we pick 2 people, if we pick the 3 people, the one that we keep off, they're going to know that that's the one we're closest with.
And everybody on the outside can say whatever they want, and Arissa can say whatever she wants. But when you're in the house and you know how important it is to keep your cards close to your chest, I don't care if it comes down to gummy bears. Whether you like it as a viewer or not, guess what? As a viewer, you go in the house and be horrible, the same as most viewers that think they're going to kill the game.
Yeah.
That is a very strategic play on your end that you did. I don't think Marty had the same strategic play. He was just trying to be the coach and the guy that's wrangling everybody together.
It doesn't matter who goes up. Yeah. Listen, you were on the opposite end. I know you now, and I know in that moment, I saw it in your face. You were pissed. You're like, it's coming down to this. What the hell?
I didn't love it, but I got it.
But you had no choice. You're like, dude,
it.
I'm not going to do it because that's going to ruin my game. So it was like,
and what I also will say is on the other end, I was pissed how it was happening, but I was like, if I was in Derrick's position,
you got to do the same thing.
I'm doing the same thing.
Because if you'd be like, yo, I'm taking you two, I'm putting you 2 on, but I like you guys just as much as him, even though I'm keeping him off. It's like, no, that's not true because you care more about him possibly going home. Right. Exactly. And so it was a no-brainer, but it didn't escape anyone. I put a quick note here. We don't have to dive into it too much. Jacey-Lynne, Helena have a quick conversation. Jacey-Lynne, who is impressing me more and more every day, by the way, calls Helena right out. She's like, you're definitely Helena's not a good poker face. Jacey-Lynne's like, you're not making me feel good right now.
That conversation, I was like, Helena, learn to do a better job.
No, it was so obvious.
Right?
Jacey-Lynne's like, you're definitely not making me, and you're ignoring me right now because I know you're bullshitting me. She was like, trying not to blow up on her because she needs her vote, but she's like, I know deep down you're lying to me right now.
You're lying to my face. And we don't know when that conversation took place, whether it was the night before, the day of.
True.
We don't know, but it seemed like so much had happened at that point that Jacey-Lynne just knew this is done.
It was done. Flipping. But they did try. They have a conversation with Helena, Helena, Kevin, Jacey-Lynne, and Gino, the 4 of them in there. I thought it went pretty well. Was there anything else you think Gino could have added? There was one thing that I thought he could have added that might have helped. So maybe.
I don't I don't have anything that I thought he could have added because I didn't love that conversation when they were in that bedroom. I just was like, Gino, you have nothing to promise them right now. You're on the block. And at that point, it was like, listen, if you do this, like I thought the points that he made were okay. But at that point, it was like you're literally begging or pleading to the people that should be keeping you safe just because you're an alliance. And if you don't trust them enough, like I was on the block against Zach. Was I pleading to our alliance ever when I was on the block in 16?
You really were, dude. You were like the coolest dude on the block. You were just like, yeah,
dude, if
whatever's meant to be,
happen,
whatever's happened.
Because what I came to the realization of when I go in the Big Brother house was I can sit you down one-on-one all I want. I could tell you the greatest points. Your mind is not made up by what I'm saying to you. Your mind is made up by what the group is saying.
That's true.
So why am I going to waste my time? And that's why I say relationships are way more important than alliances, than conversations, and like the strategic point you're making when you're pleading your case. It's like,
yeah, look at Moose. If that was what it was, Moose would still be there.
Exactly. And so like when I was on the block that week, I was like, either they're going to choose to keep this nut job who is creating chaos, or they're going to keep me who's of sound mind. I've never crossed the alliance before. And I hope the relationships are deep enough.
Dude, there was no way you were going home. I was working triple overtime.
Also, I trust you like my older brother looking out for his younger brother.
That was one of the few points because I didn't know which way it was going to go. And I knew that you and Beast Mode had a little bit of a thing with Amber. Not a huge thing, but that's all it takes sometimes.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, Frankie definitely sees Cody as a threat. If he gets into Beast Mode's head, Beast Mode feels bad about the idea that Cody Amber was more. I'm like, this cat could go home. Mm-hmm. And I was working. That was one of the few points where I started to show my cards a little bit when it came to you, because up to that point, we really hadn't had to.
Because like Donnie was still in the house and Donnie could have went either way.
Yeah,
like,
but I knew Donnie was going to keep you.
Yeah.
I knew he was going to keep you. I could see he really liked you. It was. I was concerned about Frankie and Caleb flipping it and maybe doing something crazy. But we digress. I thought that Gino could have added in there, although I don't know if it would have made a difference. Like, you don't threaten them, but you say, hey, guys, I want to go with you for it. I want to make a promise right now that if we stick to it, we'll vote for each other no matter what. But if we burn each other, we're not going to vote for that person no matter what.
Oh, like you and I, like a jury management type thing. Like
you and I kind of did.
You don't have my vote.
Me and you told each other that. Like, hey, listen, if I go out because I get cut, fine. But if you burn me, I'm not voting for you. I don't care who you're sitting next to. And I think there would have been a passive way of saying that because Kevin's trying to win. And so isn't Helena. So it's like, unless you two are together, if one of you are sitting there next to a stone, I'm voting for the stone.
Yeah.
If you make this move right now, because it's so shitty. That I thought that was the one thing you could have added, although I don't think it would have swayed them. I don't.
No. Kevin made up his mind immediately when Marty. That's why I think it reflects more on Marty.
The minute he pulled that gummy, but they showed a cut of Kevin laughing.
Drove me nuts. So we get the replacement nominee, and it's Gino.
Yep. It's Gino. Eviction night.
Gino goes up. We get to eviction night. And obviously, like, Jacey-Lynne should have been less surprised because I feel like she had the conversations to know it was coming. Marty's just like, hey, dude, you're going home soon.
Yep.
And so then we get to the vote because not a lot of conversations happen because we kind of skipped around. We bounced around a little bit. A lot of these conversations happen after Gino went on the block. So now we get to the eviction night. Yep. And the vote goes as we thought it would. Gino goes home.
4-1.
4-1, and then immediately they find out that it's going to be a triple eviction. I don't know how you feel about this triple eviction, but I never had seen this before on Big Brother. The triple eviction where 3 are nominated and 2 go home, I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was awesome versus, okay, there's 4 competitions where there's an HOH veto, somebody gets evicted, similar to the All-Stars triple eviction.
Yep, similar to what you guys had, exactly.
I thought this was so cool. So I wanted to ask you, is this how it always is for Big Brother Canada triple eviction?
Yeah, this is how it always is. Yeah, that's how I remember because it happened to Kevin Martin too. And it's like 2 out of 3 of the people are going home. And I think that was their little change up for the Canada version to make it so it's like you really don't want to be on the block during a triple eviction because you basically have a 66% chance of going home.
Yeah.
It's not very good. It's not very good.
Let's get to the triple. Yeah. Gino goes home 4-1, and now we're in the triple eviction.
Marty's face says it all. He knows he's absolutely done. He knows he's screwed. It's win outright or I'm going home. He knows it.
Yeah. So we get to the triple eviction. The competition for the HOH was, I thought, awesome. And Jacey-Lynne and Josh are like going hand in hand. They're getting nothing wrong. And it came down to that final question. And it just showed how much like the two of them are really just like sticking it out. And it showed how much like Jacey-Lynne was probably just on an island constantly other than having Gino. Cause like she was super confident other than one question.
Yeah.
And that one question was the one that burned her. And so Josh wins the HOH. Right? Now, this was the HOH that I thought said a ton and should have said a ton to everybody in the house that remained in the house after the triple eviction. You ain't kidding. So the nominees after Josh wins the HOH are Marty, Jacey-Lynne, and Summer. Fair enough. He has the final three with Helena and Kevin, and then he has this crazy relationship because he kind of has built this relationship with Betty like, oh, Marty is constantly targeting us. We need to stick together. Like us two are the ones that
I thought they were very close.
What a big miscalculation that was on his part. But not even a choice. He didn't even have a choice.
Well, Marty and Jacey-Lynne, I understood. I mean, I don't know, but what did you think about the blow up with Summer? Because this is where I thought Summer, like, she's so bubbly and so happy in the DR and everything's all good. Dude, she blew up in that back room, which wasn't crazy. Not the craziest thing we've ever seen, but didn't sit well with her.
She wanted at Josh's throat. And, like, understandably so. But it's like, so my thing is, her like verbiage on it was, you told me last week, you lied to me. And it's like what is up with anybody playing Big Brother and being that mad when somebody lies to you the previous week? He was on the block. Summer, he would have said anything. I would have sold you his left foot to stay in the house. Like, you're going to come at him and attack him on that. It was like, I was like, Summer, enough already. You've done nothing all game. So that's how I felt in that moment because I was just like, enough, Summer. You've done nothing. Just like,
we're just going to keep you off the. You're just going to stay every week for no reason.
Everybody's just going to keep you for no reason. Like you're doing nothing. Like, and not to say anything about her social game. I don't know what her social game is because she's bubbly, she's fun, but like at this point in the game, it's late. You're like bubbly, like, ooh, I love Summer because she's such good energy. Doesn't mean anything to anybody. Everybody wants the people around them that are going to help them to get to $100,000.
Right.
So I thought it was annoying, but also I'm just getting annoyed as we get further on because a lot of stuff is happening constantly. It's like a recurring theme. It's like enough already.
You said miscalculation. Who would you have put up? Who would be your three? If
I mean, Josh? I said miscalculation, but there was nothing he could have done. He has his final three with Josh and Helena. It just was unfortunate that he had to replace somebody, but I think I was saying miscalculation because it's such a miscalculation and Betty hasn't, well, not to get ahead. I don't want to get ahead.
But the thing about it is that's what this triple eviction style does. It exposes you because you got to nominate 3 people right off the jump and potentially 4 people if one of them win a veto. So that like, if there's only 7, 8 people left in the house at that point, what is there right now? 7 people. Go through it real quick. Helena, Kevin, Gino's already gone at this point. Jacey-Lynne, Marty, Betty, and Summer. 6 people. And then there's obviously Josh.
Yeah, 7
people. Yes. So he's nominating 4 out of 6 of the people eligible to be noms.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So he has no choice. He nominates them, and it's like, I get it. I think it was the right move. So then we get to the veto. You can keep going with it. You're on a roll right now.
Yeah, so Jacey-Lynne is a beast. And I love how under pressure, she constantly is winning competitions, which makes me very excited for how the end of this game is going to go. Right? The triple eviction is a lot. The next HOH, which is a spoiler, we'll get to that later. But Jacey-Lynne is doing a lot, and now she's competing against. So what I want to say about this is Jacey-Lynne has won a bunch of competitions. Everybody else that's left in the house now has not.
Mm-hmm.
So Jacey-Lynne has won competitions under pressure. She's won it with her back against the wall. She's won it like when her game could end, which is the most pressure that you could have in the house. And so I love her odds going forward now after winning this veto. So she wins the veto and Josh has to nominate Betty.
Right.
And this should tell all to everybody that's left in the house. This should be a tell all.
Now the jig's up. Everyone should know Josh is clearly a lot closer with Helena and Kevin than you thought he was.
Honestly, at this point, it's so blatantly obvious that those 3 have something to the end. That's how it would ring to me. Like if I'm in that game, I'd be like, okay, you 3 are working together. You just had to nominate 4 of 6, and those were the only 2 that didn't make it.
Yeah. And Helena's still yet to ever go on the block. Yeah. Kevin's only been up, I think, once in the very beginning. So very obvious to me. What was interesting when they do the nom speech, and the reason why it caught my attention was Summer again. This is the second time now that she's done it. She stood up there and basically said, I don't care what y'all think.
Yeah.
I have nothing to say to you. I'm not wasting my time on you guys. The first time I thought she was trying to be funny, like a Zach Rance, but she literally did it again. And it makes more sense after this because we do have the eviction, and it's basically unanimous that Marty and Summer are going to go home. We can get into Marty in a second, but with Summer, didn't really want to talk to no one. Immediately when she knew that her TV time was over, she was done with the game, goes up the stairs and basically says, y'all see me on TV again. Don't have to be a genius to figure out what her motivation for was on being on the show.
She had no
didn't care
desire
about
to
Big
win
Brother.
the show. She just wanted an
didn't care
opportunity
about Big
to be on
Brother.
TV.
And she was very like, I do think it's part of who she is, but now I feel, my opinion, that the character was a character that we were seeing in the DRs. Oh, hi, Arissa, you look like it's all character. The DRs, it was all just to get more TV time. I don't know if it's real, man.
I'll tell you this, and I'll give this piece of advice to anybody that wants to go on and try to play a character like that to plan to be on TV. You can't constantly play that character because it's disingenuous. People see through it, and producers and executive producers are the ones doing all the casting to actually choose for future seasons are like, well, at what point do we not want this character? They'd rather like people that are really loved for their like character if it's a little more genuine. Like this is who that person is. Summer,
like,
I think we have a better chance of seeing
Marty. I think we have a better chance of seeing Marty again than her.
Or
not
maybe
because
even
Marty's
Moose.
better TV or Moose, and not because they're better, but because they're genuine. Those characters that you saw with them, that's just who they are.
Yeah. So the blow-ups, all the smooth talk and all that kind of stuff, that's who they are. So like, if you bring them back, that's what you're going to get. Where if you bring Summer back, they're going to be like,
what character she can be this time?
Who are we getting? What Summer
character
are we getting?
this time? So then she goes out and she puts back on the facade again. It was very weird to me. It was very weird. Like, I think she almost forgot that like we're watching while you're leaving.
Oh, I was super
and like
pissed.
You're being like, I don't mind you being upset that you're going home. That's cool. But like the last words on Big Brother Canada, when all these people have applied at home are, you'll see me on TV again. I have a feeling that didn't sit right with a lot of people. Maybe I'm an anomaly. Maybe I'm just an outlier. No. But for me, knowing how many people auditioned to be on the show to play the game, I felt like she basically took her card out of her back pocket and said, well, I'm not playing anymore, so now I can tell you why I was actually here. Yeah. It was to get some TV time. So I wish the best for her. If her goal was to get on TV and do future things, more power to you. Although I will tell you, statistically speaking, there's not a high probability of that. So
yeah, it's not easy to just keep being a recurring person that nobody really knows what they're going to get.
No, you got to be like you see like the Ikas and stuff that are always on. That's because that's who they are.
Yes.
Day or night, 24/7. That's who they are. So,
we'll see how it works. Characters always stay. Like you look at who recurs on shows in the US, right? Like you have Casey, you have Josh, you have a lot of the people from the challenge. You have, Jess and Cody Nixon went from Big Brother to The Amazing Race. It's like Caleb went from Big Brother to Survivor. It's like people loved Caleb because like the person that he was in the house wasn't a character. Like this was Beast Mode Cowboy.
That's who he is.
And so when you're putting on that facade and then all of a sudden you show it like, Caleb may have had his reasons, right? Because Caleb would always be like, oh, imagine there's going to be like this truck and maybe we get an opportunity for this other thing. Yeah, Caleb, we're not getting any of that. But think it if you want. But the genuine belief of it was sincere.
Yeah,
it really was sincere, right? So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to get all these other shows. Like, yeah, no, I'm on TV now. Maybe I will. But like with Summer, it almost seems like it was calculated.
Dude, I was just thrown off because usually you'll have a person, and I'm not going to name names, but there were people who've played characters on Big Brother, and they go out the door playing that character, and then months later when you meet him in person or you see something on social media, you realize that was a fake person in the house. What was weird to me with her was she played the character in the DR and when she was talking to Arissa, but when she got evicted, she went to this other person, told the house her real motive, her real agenda, and then as soon as she walked out, she was smiling and I was like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Like the camera's still rolling, Summer. Yeah. You got to play it up for a little longer. So I was just taken aback by that. But that, for the most part, wrapped up the episode. I will say, with those three people, I think they made the right move based on competition statistics so far in the season, where it's like Betty, up to this point, has only won a veto. Yeah. They feel like Summer has maybe a little bit more of a connection, or maybe it was because she was just being really rude to people. Yeah. I'm sure that didn't help when you're like, I don't care what you guys do your thing. I'm sure that played into it a little bit, but I thought Marty was definitely the right move, and I think Summer was the right move at that point.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So we finally get through the triple eviction, and I thought it was amazing. I loved watching it. It was very
good
entertaining.
TV.
A very entertaining week overall, right?
Yes, it really was.
Like a very entertaining week overall.
It was a great week. And so we leave the show with the HOH competition coming up. So we're going to talk about it a little bit. We're not going to go too deep in the weeds, but if you don't want to get the spoilers, because we are following on, we have the live feeds, we have Twitter. We'll see you next week. We appreciate you checking it out, but I have a feeling most of you guys are going to stay because who really leaves? Who really leaves? So that was your warning. You're out now. Who wins? Who wins HOH?
Which this doesn't bode well for us, bro, but Betty wins HOH. And I can't wait to see what the HOH is, because even in the triple, I thought the veto that Betty won, I thought it was great that she was able to keep her head on straight. And it was amazing.
Focus. Yeah.
But it didn't make me seem like Betty was just going to win. It was almost like, okay, blind squirrel finds a nut once. That was the thought process I had for it. I was like, okay, she, everybody gets lucky once. I'm eager to see what this HOH is, because one, Betty started really impressing me, because that HOH that she lost to Marty right before was brutal. Yeah, and she held on until it was like, hold yourself up with only your arms. And obviously you knew that was going to go to Marty over Betty, which kind of made it annoying that they did that. Like, stick it out. The producers should not have intervened like that and been like, hang out with your arms. Because it's like, who do you think's going to win this? Producers, like, just leave the game alone. Let Betty stick up there however long she can. And who wants it more?
We want to go home.
Yeah, but who wants it more now at that point? It kind of bothered me that they did that in the HOH. But so I loved Betty. You saw a lot of fight in her there. And so now I'm eager to see what this HOH was, because I might have my foot in my mouth again.
I'm sure it has to be a decent one, because they had the quick ones with the questions and stuff. Yeah. So I'm assuming it was probably decent. But the initial thought from what we're gathering is, obviously Betty did not like the fact that Josh nominated her over Helena and Kevin, which is tremendous for Kevin and Helena, because there's these shots being fired over their heads, but they're not involved because they're just the innocent pawns that, they're Switzerland.
Here's what I don't love about it. Well, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
The initial thought is that Betty's more than likely going to nominate Josh and Jacey-Lynne. That's up till this recording, which is about 8:00 on a Friday night. That's the vibe right now, is that Betty's definitely nominating those two.
And my thing is, if Jacey-Lynne doesn't get in her ear, because obviously Betty is not coming to the realization, because I watched the video of Betty pacing back and forth. She goes, Josh, blah, blah, blah. Jacey-Lynne's obviously going up, so now you're going up with her. And I was like, wait, Josh just nominated 4 people of 6. The 2 people that stayed off the block were Helena and Kevin. And you're going to nominate Jacey-Lynne, who just lost Gino and is ostracized and an outcast and by herself? That's where it was like, I want to give credit to Betty for winning the game, but if she doesn't nominate Josh and Helena or Josh and Kevin, Betty is lost. Because anybody and I don't care, just because we know on the outside, blah, 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 whatever. There's stuff that you can look at in the house if you're locked into everything. And I know you would have picked up on it, because you're one of the best to play the game, if not the best. You would have seen in a situation like that, my person just got voted out. 2 people stayed off the block of 6. If I win HOH, 2 of those 3 are going on the block. And I know it could seem like hindsight 2020. We're on the outside. We're Monday morning quarterback. But tell me you wouldn't pick up on that.
No, I would have definitely picked up on the fact that they're sitting pretty, and it's been a few different things. Now, it would also be Josh bawling his eyes out when Kevin was about to go home. All this would start to click.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, there's something there. And I got to do the math real quick, but I'm pretty sure this is checkmate, because you have Josh and JC if they go on the block. Let's say Josh wins veto. That means Helena or Kevin go up. Let's just say Helena for the sake of this. Josh and Kevin can keep her. So Jacey-Lynne goes home.
Oh, yeah. Right? Jacey-Lynne's going veto.
If Jacey-Lynne wins veto, right, then Helena or Kevin are going on the block.
Right.
And then more than likely, I think that Jacey-Lynne will probably vote to keep Josh at that point, because Kevin and Helena burned.
But it's going to go to a tiebreaker. And so do you think Betty votes out Josh and plays emotional? Or Betty votes out Kevin and plays strategic.
Did you just ask me if Betty will play emotional?
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, Betty is just emotional. And I feel like her nominations, if it's Josh and Jacey-Lynne, are just so emotional and not strategic. But I also want to put this on Jacey-Lynne, because if Jacey-Lynne doesn't have the awareness to notice either and pitch that to Betty, then she deserves to be on the block the same as everybody else.
It's a great point. But I don't know if that's going to happen. It seems like Betty's pretty stuck in her ways. So more than likely, you're going to have a situation where it's going to be Betty, Helena, Kevin, and Josh or JC. And I would venture to say Jacey-Lynne doesn't win the veto. She's going home.
Yeah.
So you could have the 3-person alliance, the crash test dummies, against Betty, and Betty can't play in the next HOH.
Yeah.
So 100% Betty has to win the veto or she's going home. And then you're going to have that final 3. And it's going to be interesting because I know we're basing it at some level off competition, but I don't know how the jury's going to react to these 3 if they get there.
So somebody made a really good point to me, Kay, and she said, she was like, how do you think people are going to vote? Like, do you think, everybody's going to vote for, Kevin? And I was like, I don't know.
He's going to have to break down his game very quickly because it's not been obvious what he's been doing. We know what he's been doing. But how's he going to break that down in 2 minutes to a jury that kind of looks at him as like a pawn? Like, they don't look at him as a mastermind at all. Unless in the jury house, I haven't seen it where they're thinking like Kevin's the mastermind behind everything. Kind of like the jury came to the conclusion on my season with you.
Yeah.
Where they were like, oh, Derrick's playing us all.
Yeah, but the seeds were all planted. Like, is Kevin planting the seeds, or do they feel like everybody was following scared because Marty was in there? Now Marty's gone. So it's like, well, who is really the one running?
Yeah. Yeah,
I did like Kevin's goodbye message to Gino, which is where I think he did plant a good seed. He said, Gino, I love you, but it was too good of an opportunity. Once you went on the block, I knew I had to do this, so I had to get the numbers to vote you out. And he almost took responsibility for it.
It's a great point. I told you, yep, it's a great point. So it's his jury messages are going to be huge now, and he did. You're right. He owned it, and I think that's because he's going to own it in his final speech, because I do think Kevin gets there. Obviously a lot of game left to play, but I think it's going to be Kevin this year. I don't see how it wouldn't be, because if he's sitting in the final 2 next to anyone, I think he wins. Although I will say Josh is very liked.
Yeah.
So could he pull out a dub?
Could it be emotional? Yeah.
And how many wins does Josh have at this point?
He only has 1 HOH.
1 HOH.
Does he have a veto? I don't think he does. He's won HOH
before, hasn't he? Before the triple?
He was like very, very close. I remember the one time he was like up there to win it, and then I think Kyle won it. It was week 3.
Okay, so he's only got 1 HOH win. Kevin has no HOH wins. Helena has no HOH wins. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. You're going to have a season where it's not like this dominant figure.
How can you talk it out?
Fascinating stuff, man. Anything else to add? I mean, we kind of covered it all.
No, thank you guys. If you guys have made it to this point, give us a thumbs up in the comments. We really do appreciate it, because, I gave something in the last one. If you get to the end of the video,
there's a lot of cheese. There's a lot of cheese in the comments.
We love that. And so make sure, if you're getting to the end of these videos, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate it so, so much. And if you're here, please help us grow, help us bring in this family and grow this family a little bit more. So share it with a friend that you think may not be watching it, because we really appreciate everybody that sticks it out. And we know there's a bunch of you that stick it out all the way to the end. And from the bottom of our hearts, we love you for that. And we really do appreciate it.
Couldn't agree with you more. Love you guys. We appreciate it. Thank you for joining us here on the Winner Circle. We will see you next week.